No! Okay, thank God. Okay. Whew! Okay, the mic works. Alright, I don't know what happened. So yes, the stream is officially started. Now we can read Umineko no Naku Kuroni! Yahoo! Let's get back to it. Let's push the laptop a bit. And in the end, Kanon did not regain consciousness, even though Dr. Nanjo and the rest did all they could to heal him. Of course, there was very little that could be done on an island like this without medicine or proper facilities. However, Kanon was the only human to ever confront the culprit. If only he could give us some kind of clue. However, at the time they carried Kanon away, it was already too late. My sincere apologies. Without proper facilities, there was nothing I could do about such a serious wound. No, that's perfectly understandable. Thank you so much for giving it your very best. Dr. Nanjo sure had been sprayed by a violent spurt of blood. It was easy to imagine the devotion to which he had tried to save Kanon's life, up until the last second. Jessica was crouched in the corridor, crying softly. She'd probably been taking care of Kanon until the moment of his death. George tried to approach her with words of comfort, but when Jessica pushed him away, he stopped trying to force her to talk and left her alone. If only I hadn't let Kanon go alone. Oh.
Do not let that bother you. If you had been with him, you probably would have been attacked as well. He foolishly rushed on ahead and paid for his mistake.
How can you say it like that? Kanon spotted the culprit and bravely stood up to them! If only Kumasada had gone with it, the culprit might have hesitated and chosen to run away! Emotion-filled words I never thought I'd hear coming from Jessica's mouth trembled out. We saw looking truly sorry, could do nothing but hang her head. Jessica, you shouldn't talk to her now. It's the same for me. And probably you as well, right, Battler? We don't know what's going on, and it feels like our hearts are going to split open. There were tears in George's eyes again. Seeing Jessica break down probably brought back the pain of losing his parents. I'd done my crying all at once, so I didn't feel like crying anymore. However, I understood how great the pain in their hearts were.
It's okay, Jessica. You'll be able to meet Kanon again soon.
Stop it! I don't need you trying to console me like that!
Beatrice will resurrect the dead and even love that's been lost, so you'll definitely be able to meet him again soon. Then everyone will be able to live in peace.
So the one who killed Kanon is this Beatrice who supposedly gave you that letter yesterday? Where is she? Where's she hiding? I'll find her and tear her apart! Tell me! You know who the culprit really is, don't you? What do you know and why are you hiding? Tell me, damn it!
Milady, please stop.
Beatrice exists!
Damn it! Let go of me, Kenji! Maria knows who the culprit is, and she's hiding their identity, even though she knows! She must be telling them what we're doing and guiding them as they kill us! Jessica, be silent! Jessica grabbed at Maria. Genji tried to stop her, but Jessica could not be calmed. The next thing I heard was the sound of Aunt Natsuki slapping Jessica's face. After that, only Jessica's sorrowful sobbing resounded throughout the hall. Maria, I know there's no way you're the culprit. You've been with us since the beginning, and there was no time for you to communicate with any culprit. So I want you to tell me something. This Beatrice who handed you the letter yesterday, who was she? Although those words seem kind, they clearly show that George still had some remaining doubts about Maria. He didn't actually grab at her. However, he felt exactly the same way Jessica did. Aniki, I already asked her the same thing a second ago. Her answer was the same as before. I want to hear it from Maria's mouth. Who is Beatrice?
I got it from Beatrice. I'll say it no matter how many times you ask. I got the letter from Beatrice. George, do you refuse to believe in Beatrice because she's not an opponent you can hit? But I'll keep saying it because it's true. Beatrice exists. The door to the Golden Land will soon be open. I'll go there. Beatrice promised. In that world, Mama is nice, Papa is ruthless is also nice. I want to go there right away. Everyone is afraid of Beatrice, but that's only natural, so calm yourselves. Beatrice said so herself. By the time the typhoon has passed, I'll have ended everything, she said. Ouch!
Maria, I don't mind you being talkative, but let's leave that at that for now. I bet this is all a pretty happy situation for you, since you're always going on about how witches exist, but keep that to yourself for now. Don't try to force out other people. I know I've been creeped out by this girl for a while now, but there really is something wrong with her. Don't you think so too, Valor? Genji? Kumasawa? What about you, Mom? Maria knows who the culprit is, and she's hiding it. Okay, maybe she hasn't done anything directly, but she's definitely working with a criminal. That's right! She's a spy! We can't let her stay with us any longer! Maria, you must realize there are times when indiscreet discussion is best avoided. If you keep adding oil to the fire, even I will get very angry. Aunt Natsuhi glared at Maria with frightening eyes. Maria was used to Aunt Rosa's loud style of scolding, but she was apparently hadn't built up a resistance to Aunt Natsuhi's quiet sort of scolding. She shrugged and kept her mouth shut. A desolate feeling filled the room. It felt as though things would get more complicated if anyone spoke. How many people have already died? 6 people in Dad's group. After that, both Aunt Ava and Uncle Hideyoshi, Kanon, and Father. There were a total of 18 people on this island, supposedly, and 10 of those people have been killed. That's more than half of us. Right now, there's absolutely no proof that the remaining 8 people will be safe. I messed up on Grandfather right now. When you ignore Maria's tone and read between the lines, you can really tell that, she just wants to be happy. I do not care what anyone says about Maria. I still defend her. I mean, the things that she says to the others, that's wrong. As for what Jessica said, I've related to moments where people think I'm creepy. And I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I've acted like Maria at times when I was younger. At any rate, this is no time to quarrel. Now that we are certain the culprit can enter and leave the mansion at will, and strike out of nowhere, we must give our undivided attention to surviving until tomorrow. I agree strongly with Aunt Natsuhi. We can figure out who the culprit is at our leisure tonight. For now, though, we're better off finding a place to barricade ourselves in. There's still a long time until tomorrow. We needed to find some place to barricade ourselves tomorrow, and so we could rest our bodies, even get the smallest amount of relief. I agree. Everyone is already pushing their mental and physical limits, myself included. I believe it would be wise to take that into account as we move forward. That's right. There's a high probability that enemies got the equivalent of a master key. Were Shannon, Kanon, Goda holding master keys? Yes, they were supposed to have them on their person during work. We didn't want to disturb the scene, so we didn't investigate that closely. We can't eliminate the possibility that someone stole a key from them. In the first place, we know the culprit may have visited the servant room at some point to unlock the garden shed shutter. It's conceivable they obtained the master key from there earlier on. There were many servants serving the Ushiromiya family. Because of that, there were several master keys. Furthermore, every time one employee started or finished working, the keys were passed down between servants. There were many servants serving the Ushiromiya family. Because of that, there were several master keys. Furthermore, every time one employee started or finished working, the keys were passed between servants. We had to acknowledge this has probably gotten a bit sloppy at times in the past. So in other words, no matter where we hole up and lock ourselves up in, it'd just be pointless. Fine. Who cares about locking up? If you're gonna come, bring it on, damn it! I'll beat you at your own game! They borrowed a bunch of keys from the pockets of one of the murdered servants. Is there any safe place that even those keys couldn't open? Because of the nature of our jobs, we've been entrusted with the keys to all the rooms. all in the mansion and in the guest house. So in other words, no matter where we hole up and lock ourselves in, it'd just be pointless. Fine. Who cares about locking up? If you're gonna come, bring it on, damn it! I'll beat you at your own game! The enemy won't approach us from the front. I don't know about the first 6, but if we look at what happened to my parents in Kano, meaning grandfather, the enemy has only gone after isolated people. They don't have the power to assault all of us openly in a secure room. That's right, it's just like Aniki says. Maybe Aunt Natsuki's rifle can serve as a deterrent to stop them from attacking. I hope that is so, but... Maria, I know you want to say something, but keep it to yourself and stay quiet for a while. Maria probably wanted to say something about how witches weren't afraid of things like guns, but if she were to say that out loud, the atmosphere around here would start to get pretty edgy. I had noticed and decided to put a stop to it.
If I may, I do know of just one place that cannot be entered even with the servant key rings.
Where is that?
That would be Master's study.
I'm against this! I don't even want to think about going to Grandfather's creepy room! How many keys can gain access to that room?
There are 2. I always have one on my person. The other was held by the master himself, but just now I found this corpse in the boiler room.
Genji took a handkerchief out of his pocket and opened it, showing us the burnt and filthy study key. Then, he showed it alongside his own key, which he had once lent to Natsuki.
Normally it would have been the proper to leave the master's key for the police, but because of the master's order to protect the safety of the study, I borrowed it for the time being.
I see, which means that KINZO's study is the only place where it can be safe.
It would appear that way. I don't even want to think about being shut up in the strange room all night. It appears we must acknowledge that this room is safer than anywhere else right now. Even though grandfather locked himself in that safe room, the culprit brought him out and killed him. We can't be certain that it is truly safe. According to your theory, grandfather cleverly found a way around the receipt trick and left the room of his own free will. If so, the room might be a good place to barricade ourselves in after. You're too optimistic, Aniki. However, at the same time, I thought he brought up a pretty interesting point. After all, this gives us a chance to question the enemy, the witch herself, and about how the sealed door had been opened. If we assume the culprit used some technique to kidnap grandfather from his study, they'd have to show us the same trick again if they wanted to assault us in the study. And that'd give us a chance to make the culprit prove how they did it right before our eyes. If she really is a witch, all we gotta do is appear in front of us and wow us with a colorful display of magic. If she should avoid doing that, everything must be a work of a fake witch who wants us to think she's real. I'm gonna have to read all of this part then, I guess. Therefore, a culprit who used a technique other than magic to defeat the closed room couldn't open the door before her eyes. Is grandfather's room big enough to stuff 8 people in? Yes. There is a bed, a sofa, and blankets, so while it is not luxurious, it'll be more than suitable for spending the night. There is also a sink, a bathroom, a refrigerator, and a liquid cabinet.
Whoa! That's incredible! But isn't that weird? You're saying he built another house inside his house? It's pretty cramped for the last house of someone like our grandpa who bought a whole island and realized all his dreams.
That's right. After some point in time, Father probably couldn't feel peace in any other place, even inside the mansion.
We always sneered about how he shut himself in there, and this time, we're the ones who are gonna shut ourselves up. Ha! Jessica spat the words out. Jessica, it sounds like you'd rather go search for the culprit than stay shut up somewhere. Of course, I don't want to think that we'll be able to find them if we just start searching on our own. In the end, we can't do anything but wait. Then it doesn't matter where we wait, does it? I'm not gonna run away or hide. Why don't we just take it easy in the park watching TV or something and wait for this banter EJ to appear?
It's perfectly fine if he doesn't appear. There's no need for us to be the ones to expose the culprit.
Well said. We shouldn't take needless risk before the police arrive.
Thank you, Dr. Nancho. I think we should move to Father's study. True, we have no proof it's safe since Father was taken out of there. However, I can't deny the possibility that, as valid reason, Grandpa left the study of his own accord and was attacked outside.
A while back, I proposed a strange theory as a stopgap measure, But just as Aunt Ava said, even though that trick would be possible, I couldn't explain what motive could have made Grandfather sneak out of his own study in such a troublesome way. Plus, Grandfather couldn't even have used that trick unless he knew that the receipt was wedged in the door. Aunt Ava hadn't pointed out that last part, but it's clear how absurd the theory is. So does that mean the sealed door formed a closed room, just as Aunt Ava claimed? Is it an undeniable fact that Aunt Natsuki was the culprit? If Aunt Ava were here now, she'd probably make that claim openly and blow my strange theory away. But anyway, I had to admit that room with both a bed and a toilet, all 8 people could be shut up in, with only 2 keys, both of which were gathered here, had to be the safest place in the mansion right now. At the very least, I figured this would be better than just staying shut up in the parlor and hoping nothing would go wrong. Wait, we've been safe only because we've been shut up in the parlor? What if leaving that room and moving to an unexplored location is actually more dangerous? It's useless, it's all useless! My flimsy head is about to break out into fever. If I keep spinning the chessboard around, right and wrong will keep switching places over and over, and I won't be able to believe anything. But it seems like the culprit is one of the 18. I want to believe in Beatrice. And once I start believing in Beatrice, I want to start finding the culprit among the 18. If I keep spinning around forever in the end, my thoughts won't even have taken one step from where they started. How far back in the past was it that Kirei taught me about chessboard thinking? The concept of examining the situation by spinning it around and thinking from the enemy's side. I seem to remember being so interested by it back then, I used it to guide all of my thinking. By the way, Kirei was Dad's coworker back then. I never dreamed that she'd someday be added to our family. Didn't Kirei tell me something once? I get the feeling she once said that. While this chessboard thinking was one way to look at things, it certainly wasn't all that powerful. And it wouldn't be good to rely on it too much. I know, right? Chessboard thinking is my own interpretation of something called game theory, which I read about in a book long ago. It's a very interesting subject. You should go tackle it yourself when you get into college, Bethany. I really want to try it! If I could study and perfect my chessboard thinking, it'd be fun to be able to read into my opponent's moves, wouldn't it? But you can't believe in it blindly. Game theory is a very deep and complicated subject. Chessboard thinking is my interpretation that skims the surface of game theory. In order to thoroughly read your opponent's moves like you're imagining, you need to study your opponent. Additionally, while chessboard theory is convenient and practical, it isn't perfect. It has many weak points despite its convenience. Weak points? Yes. Chessboard thinking is founded upon game theory. When you thoroughly investigate game theory, it boils down to math. Do you know what the weak point of math is? It's noise. In math, when you write 1 + 1 = 2, that process will always result in 1 + 1 = 2, no matter how many billions of years pass. Nothing more, nothing less. That's because there's absolutely no noise mixed in. But for example, unlike math, the Japanese language has noise mixed in. Kanji are a good example. Old kanji and new kanji are slightly different, which represents an introduction of noise created by the changes between time periods. Isn't history the same? Okay, those are Chinese characters, or something like that, yeah. There are dozens of policies that seem foolish in the modern era, but were meaningful at some point in the past. Because the rules of chess are fixed, when a pair of experts are discussing one particular layout, it's possible they could reach the same conclusions whether they're in 100 years in the past or 100 years in the future. However, if it's the rules of chess that had gone through massive changes over time, it's possible the discussion about the same layout could have changed as well. That's right. Events in the world of humans are normally full of noise. Aren't human emotions that way? Even if the exact same thing occurs more than once, there's no guarantee that humans will always act in a predictable fashion. The moment we try to use a math-based theory to predict someone's actions, we must be aware that our theory has built-in weaknesses and limits. Simply put, chessboard thinking is extremely weak against noise and fickleness, as well as mistakes or incorrect knowledge. That's right. Kirei definitely said that. Chess has always been a game where both sides play by the same rules and fight with the same conditions for victory. That's why it's possible for both sides to predict the other's moves. It's possible to read your opponent because you can always suppose they'll make the best moves that they can find. But what if your opponent is fickle or a bit tired? It makes a move that can hardly be called the best. Or what if this game actually has a special rule, some unknown thing that only the enemy knows and can use. In fact, what if the opponent actually has some goal other than victory? Think from your enemy's perspective. That's the basis of chessboard thinking, which means if you misread your enemy, the answer you draw from this process will be complete rubbish and useless. So far, I've used chessboard theory to guess several vague bits of information about the culprit hiding behind this case, or so I think. However, I don't know anything about the culprit. Am I just playing around in a labyrinth of thought? If Kirie were here at a time like this, she'd probably be able to notice something with her much, much sharper thinking ability. Yeah. Until the very last moment, Jessica resisted moving into Grandfather's study, but in the end, Aunt Natsuhi persisted, and we decided to move there. Everyone was completely wrapped in paranoia by now. Kumasai had prepared dinner at one point, but during the time we were discovering the deaths of George's parents, both the kitchen and the parlor had been left empty. Someone suggested the food might have been poisoned while we were gone. Because of that, we were unable to even touch the food that Kumasai had taken the trouble to make for us. The manner in which the first 6 were killed was still unknown. It certainly could have been poisoned. Certainly, that would allow even a single person to carry out a murder of 6 large adults. Furthermore, this idea made it easy to imagine there was only a single culprit, one who'd be afraid of Aunt Natsuhi's rival, right? And it was good for our emotional stability. But the fatigue and hunger were even harsher than we imagined. Then Kumasai made a proposal. We all went together to the kitchen. There we gathered some canned food and other things that'd be hard to poison or to take in with us. All Kumasai's efforts to reward us with just a little dinner on this savage day regrettably came to nothing. The food piled up on the serving cart looked just a little sad. Poison? Eat it anyway! Yum 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 yum. Take the risk. We all started climbing the stairs. Aunt Natsuhi was in the lead, warily staring into the darkness with both eyes and the barrel of the gun. Once we dragged ourselves up to the 3rd floor, just as Aunt Natsuhi had warned us beforehand. There was a mixture of chemical smell and a sickly sweet aroma, and a stench hanging in the air. It felt like it was eating into our heads. I see, this kind of stench probably gives you a headache if you were shut in with it for a whole night. I know it's a little late. I'm with Jessica. I vote against going into Grandfather's study. It felt like the stench was flowing out of this magnificent door. It was a door to the forbidden study, which should defend against any who would enter. While Genji unlocked the door, Maria stared at the door and the doorknob with great interest.
Ugh! Incredible door!
It looks old and strict, like it'd stop any jokes cold. A perfect door for Grandfather's study.
The power to ward off spiritual menaces is strong here. Beatrice probably couldn't open this door.
Oh, what does that mean? Maria pointed at the doorknob. A scorpion crest. No, a design like a magic circle arranged around the scorpion was inscribed there. That design. That's right. Isn't it just like those keychain charms Maria gave Jessica and me yesterday?
The 5th magic circle of Mars is a strong ward against magic. Additionally, this magic circle was very diligently constructed and is full of power. Such a magic circle can be quite troublesome to beings of magic like Beatrice.
Isn't that comforting? Are you saying we can escape even Beatrice's clutches in this room? Our little witch sure is reliable. And how did Beatrice get Grandfather out?
Just as valid reason. Beatrice can't go inside. However, she has both magic and familiars. Using them, she might have been able to get Grandfather to leave the study of his own accord.
I read about that in manga. I'd seen a bunch of scenes where vampires were frightened of crosses so they couldn't get close, but their familiars were just fine, so they made their familiars attack.
Those scorpion keychain charms I gave you yesterday also had the 5th magic circle of Mars on them. The power dwelling within them was weak, but they should be enough to protect you until you leave the island. Although it sounds like you've lost yours, right?
Scorpion keychain charms? Yeah, the charm I gave you yesterday was something I got from Maria. I heard it could repel magic if you put it on your doorknob, and at the same time, I thought maybe it'd be better if you had it.
Is that so? I thought it was an odd thing for you to be carrying around.
Aunt Natsuhi put that on her doorknob?
Yes. Last night after hearing about it from Jessica, I hung it from the doorknob from inside my door.
Then Aunt Natsuhi, you really were fortunate. If you did that, Beatrice probably couldn't even lay a finger on you yesterday. I think Beatrice must have been really annoying.
Beatrice, annoyed, couldn't lay one finger. Natsuki thought back on that eerie scribble she'd seen that morning, as though someone had been tearing at the outside of her door with blood-soaked hands, and gasped in surprise. Could it be that this witch, who called herself Beatrice, tried to enter through the door to Natsuki's own room, but the magic-repelling charm had been hanging from the inside, so she couldn't break through the door. So she was annoyed, so she scratched at it? Ugh, that's creepy. Imagine in the real life context, somebody goes in your room and they're like, okay, I'm gonna play by the rules and just let you live. God, that's fucking crazy! Quit it, don't talk about that! Witches don't exist! The culprit does! And they're a human just like us! If you need proof, why don't we dice her up and see if her blood's red? Quit it, don't talk about that! Witches don't exist! The culprit does! And they're a human just like us! If you need proof, why don't we dice her up and see if her blood's red? Damn it! Damn it! You had a cannon! I messed up. Oh well. I'm gonna move on. Genji unlocked the door. 8 people entered KINZO's study. I read it too soon. The line about what she was saying. Grandfather's study. I heard rumors about it beforehand, so I wasn't that shocked. He did nothing more than fortify it thoroughly with his own occult hobbies. If grandfather's hobby had been chasing after pop idols, these walls might have been buried beneath idol posters. In my case, it's 2D. Help. Even if I didn't understand it, I did realize this room was a bundle of all his pastimes. Even so, I couldn't help but remain dumbfounded by the smell of his creepy medicine, and the sweet stench that seemed to melt my head. When the door was closed, it automatically made a clunk. I see. This is the odd lock that's activated whenever the door is closed. There were only 2 keys that could open the door from the outside, both of which were in this room. In other words, it had become a closed room. The shutter, the receipt, the chain, and now the auto lock. This 4th door had the most magnificent lock yet. This was doubtlessly a closed room. Just to make absolutely sure the room was secure, we checked all over for our ways in and out. The window was tightly locked. It should have been enough, but just in case, we tried knocking all over the walls. After all, we talked about there being a hidden door in this room. We couldn't find anything suspicious. Grandfather's study was very large. Even though we called it a study, it wasn't really a single room. It could be divided into 4 basic sections. A study section, a bedroom section, a toilet bathroom section, and a section for cooking that had a sink. I see. This study really does have enough to live in. Now I see grandfather could live his whole life in this room without ever leaving. It seemed grandfather wasn't in the habit of watching TV because there was no television or even a radio in this room. We can't do anything except pass the time listening to the sound of the rain until tomorrow morning. Dr. Nanjo looked closely at the chessboard that sat on the table in front of the sofa and muttered. It was apparently the partly finished chess match he'd been playing with grandfather until yesterday. The black had the white pretty well cornered. It looked like checkmate would be reached within a few moves, the last part of the endgame. Damn, yeah, I know, right? That's kind of fun. Even though checkmate had almost been reached, the endgame had been rushed, and the end was never completed.
KINZO, it seems we weren't able to see this match through after all. Dr. Nanjo, I was KINZO's friend for a long time. I never knew more than about half of him. I believed 2 KINZOs existed, a wise one and one trapped by some madness. I never understood anything about him. Especially when it came to Beatrice, it would seem his personality changed.
In the direction of Kumasawa's upward gaze, a portrait of Beatrice could be seen. It wasn't massive like the one hanging in the entrance hall, but small, made for this room. Grandfather probably spent every day in this room, and so much of his time, talking to the witch in that portrait. Oh, I know what that's like. Who was Beatrice to Grandfather in the first place? Right now, you couldn't just explain it away by saying it was a story made by the parents to frighten children away from wandering to the forest. When you are kind of a KINZO Kenny, but you would never try to ruin your kids' lives and not be a proper parent. I have no responsibilities over anyone. Yay! While eating the canned food we brought from the kitchen, we talked together about who Beatrice was. Whether the culprit was Beatrice herself or someone pretending to be her. Whether they were a witch or a human, that was besides the point. The woman in this portrait was strongly related to the roots and background of this case. You couldn't talk about this case without talking about her. Except I don't like KINZO. Sorry. No, I would never do some of those stuff that he does. God. I'm like, he's relatable sometimes. God. That is kind. It's kind of that's eerie. That's kind of like how. Spoilers. Not gonna explain that part. That's right. Mom, you picked the culprit's letter in Aunt Ava's room, right? Yes. I still haven't opened it. Let's give it a try. Oh, yep. Aunt Natsuki took out the western envelope. Genji pulled out a paper knife out of the drawer in the study desk and handed it to her. While watching her open it, George grimaced slightly. After all, it was a letter left at the site where his parents had been murdered. There was a good chance its contents would say something unbearable to Aniki. Aunt Natsuki also seemed to realize that, so she glanced over the contents first without reading it out loud. We were a little frightened that she might grimace after reading something shocking, but she just frowned unhappily. What does it say? There is one unpleasant sentence. It must be trying to provoke us. Natsuki, after deciding the contents could be shown to the children, set it openly on the table. Everyone stared at it at the same time. Praise my name. What the hell? That's annoying! It's probably Beatrice declaring herself the victor. Damn it. I bet you were hoping for another weird magic circle that would show up.
It wasn't a magic circle, but my expectations haven't been betrayed.
What could it mean? I wonder if she wants to tout her own existence. That seems reasonable. With this letter, we now know the author of last night's letter is the culprit. I think the identical envelope is more significant than what is written here. Without a doubt, this is the type of envelope and sealing wax that the master used. Oh, I don't know what's going on anymore. This is the first time I've seen something like this since I started working for the Ushinomiya family. Going by last night's letter, Beatrice is claiming to be Grandfather's oldest confidant. Grandfather often said the same thing in the past, right? I spoke to Genji and Kumasawa, who nodded together. Guess that means you two know more about her than anyone else except Grandfather. Could you tell us? For a long time, I've purposely avoided this topic. But now that it has come to this, I can no longer do so. Genji, tell us everything you know. Genji didn't answer. Did he remain silent despite his knowledge, or did he not know anything at all? Still, I had a good guess. The ghost story of the witch Beatrice had long defied among the servants. Deified. Oof. He probably had been very close to Grandfather and his occult hobbies. So there was a good chance that he'd been indoctrinated with even weirder things and had increasingly come to deify the witch, as grandfather's most trusted servant, who had sworn loyalty to him. He might be most influenced by the illusion of the witch that grandfather had created. There was only one reason for Genji to remain silent. He could speak, but definitely cause a backlash. It was better if he kept his mouth shut. It wasn't like we believe him anyway. Something among those lines. A short while ago, Maria had been more willing to speak bluntly and unrestrainedly, and that had earned her a scuffle with Jessica. It was natural for Genji to keep his silence. Was she father's concubine? His concubine. That could be possible. For ordinary poor people, polygamy isn't only viewed negatively from a moral perspective, it's also an unmaintainable financial situation. But that wasn't the case for the very rich. It's possible for them to have another lover in addition to their real wife. We can't deny the possibility that grandfather had another woman in his life besides grandmother. Maybe when grandmother was alive, I hear she was pretty sure of it. She thought he was cheating on her. I always thought she meant grandfather's imaginary witch. Now this is getting really interesting. You told me, didn't you, Genji? You said Beatrice has been working for grandfather since before the mansion was finished. I heard the construction of the mansion was completed in Showa 27, 1952. That means this person called Beatrice was in a relationship with grandfather since at least 30 years ago. Could that concubine of 30 years ago, or maybe a relative or hidden child with that person, hold some kind of grudge and be planning revenge? I see. This is starting to sound like your standard Western mansion mystery. It's a filthy topic, but the easiest line of reasoning to accept. What do you think, Genji? The master surely had feelings of deep love for her. There can be no mistake that he cared for her more than his late wife. Who is this person called Beatrice, and what is she doing now? I have heard that she passed away before the mansion was completed. She's already dead? Yes. The master was deeply stricken by grief at her loss, and he devoted himself to the art of black magic as a means to revive her. The master loved Beatrice from the bottom of his heart. It was that madness which drove him to do all that you see here. As Genji said this, he spread his arms as though asking us to look at the room, filled with the signs of grandfather's madness. World End plays, and I love that song too. We're all at a loss for words. Normally black magic seems like it'd just be creepy, and it's really hard to imagine why someone might be so enraptured by it. Since KINZO was just an eccentric who had restored the Ushiromiya family amidst his madness, nobody had tried to understand him. The only thing on grandfather's mind had been the loss of a beloved woman, and his inescapable sorrow. Earlier this room had seemed creepy, but in an instant it had changed into something that we could understand completely. The creepy books, the magic circles, medicine, all of it. It all existed simply because he wanted to revive the face of a single woman who left this world over 30 years ago. The master only told me about Beatrice's story once while he was very drunk, although I have forgotten the details. It was a deep, deep love enough to make a woman like me jealous. When KINZO succeeded the headship of the Ushiromiya family, his marriage to his late wife had already been decided by the few surviving family elders. So, he was forced into a marriage with some woman who would benefit the Ushiromiya family? That is correct. KINZO was installed as the head who revived the family and had to bear the entirety of that heavy responsibility. I do not pretend to know the details of when or where KINZO first met her. Guess it'd be rude to say anything more than that. That was when grandfather truly fell in love for the first time. Just how deep was this affection for her? That was easy to see just by looking around us. This room was covered with piles upon piles of things having to do with black magic. My grandfather spent every day shut in, immersed in his research, isolated from the outside world, never regretting 1 minute of it. You couldn't help but recognize the depths of grandfather's love for Beatrice. I had it all wrong, Genji. What do you mean by that? I've always thought that maybe you servants believed blindly in a witch because you were influenced by grandfather's creepy black magic hobby. But that's not how it was, right? It's by acting as though Beatrice's soul at least had been restored and existed inside this mansion. They might have hoped to soothe grandfather's heart. The closed eyes, the expression of one remembering something from the distant past. Genji had broken his long silence. In making that confession, he probably felt like he was betraying his one and only master in the most serious way, even though that person was already dead. Beatrice has revived as a witch. She's in the mansion even now, and she had said it, had believed it, and made other people believe in it, and would take that to him with the grave. This might have been the last service he could offer up to his master. The legend of the witch, the mysterious tale of Rokenjima that was still whispered of amongst the servants. Its true nature was a sad lie. No, it was an act of kindness toward grandfather who lost the person he loved above all else. I remember denying the witch's existence in front of father on multiple occasions. I finally understand how much that must have wounded him. Right now, I can understand very well. I thought I could revive Shannon using black magic. I'd immediately become the next owner of this room and start researching. Aniki. Another strand of tears dripped from George's eyes. Maybe his tears were infectious. Tears rose to Jessica's eyes too, and she sniffled.
Beatrice has said it. Very soon she will be able to revive people. You'll be able to meet them, she said.
Very soon the door to the golden land will be opened. In the promised land that glitters gold, the souls of all the dead will be resurrected, along with the love that has been lost. And I will sleep in a world of peacefulness for all time. Did she say that? The Beatrice who gave you the letter.
You don't believe, do you?
Only grandfather were here. I'm sure he'd be happy. I'm sure he'd be jumping for joy right now that Beatrice is about to be revived. In that case, I believe. If grandfather gave up half of his life for this research trying to resurrect the soul of the woman he loved and spending the rest of his life believing, I'll believe too.
Battler.
When you love a single woman for so long, the people around you catch on to it, and it becomes the truth. Maybe you could say they're just being polite for the sake of your feelings, but right here and right now, I'd like to call that magic.
It isn't just being polite. It really is magic. She's a witch. It looks like nobody can see Beatrice after all.
Yes, he is really somebody who feels a lot. Some time passed. As we listened to the sound of the rain, we considered what kind of love and madness must have possessed the owner of this room, as he spent half of his life. If you ask me as a woman, then why I'd like to be understanding of father's feelings of true love. It did leave mother in an awkward position. Haha, I agree. Cheating is cheating. No way to make it pretty. Yeah, that's right. Gotta feel sorry for grandmother. So, have there been any rumors about a child between Beatrice and grandfather? The word Beatrice has been hidden in every corner of this case. It's natural to suspect some relatives of hers. No, I have not heard of anything like that. If there was one, a memento of his most beloved person, he would have surely given him all of his affection. Since he ended up immersing himself in black magic instead, maybe we should assume there was no such child. Come to think of it, That reminds me of a rumor I have heard. You know it, right? That story about how Grandpa heavily supported an orphanage called the Fukuin House? Enough of that. That is nothing more than slander which could desecrate Father. Tell us, Aunt Natsuhi. I think even you agree that this is no time to hide things from each other. It is a worthless story. Father made massive donations to an orphanage and had the orphans employed as servants of the head family to give them some on-the-job experience. The story in question is simply some drivel spread by fools who claim that Father was using those orphans for some filthy hobby. For a while, some guy said that he was collecting human sacrifices for his black magic. And he really is doing weird experiments and ceremonies in this room all the time. So I half believed in it myself. And these servants who came from the Fukuin house are... There are several of them, but Shano and Kano were two scheduled during the family conference shift. To resurrect Beatrice, he brought in servants from the orphanage as human sacrifices? After all, everyone Grandfather selected as a servant was young and about the same age as Shannon or Kano. I was sure it was because Grandfather had some bizarre hobby. Jessica, mind your words. When Aunt Natsuhi scolded her, the atmosphere instantly went sour and everyone fell quiet. However, something was tugging at the back of my mind. Sacrifices. Sacrifices. Human sacrifices brought over from an orphanage. What is it? Freaky words like sacrifices don't pop up so often. And yet, I've seen or heard that word recently. Some part of my memory is tugging at me. Hey, Beatrice. What do you know? I arrived in front of the portrait of Beatrice. It wasn't as massive as the one in the entrance hall, but that portrait, which must have been drawn by some famous painter, was still as intimidating in this smaller size. Below it, just like the entrance hall, was the epitaph that supposedly indicated the location of the hidden gold. Sacrifices here! What the hell, Battler? You're creeping me out! 6 sacrifices. My eyes were wide as plates! Everything's been predicted right here from the very beginning! Everyone crowded around and the same expression of shock rose to all our faces. That's right. It's right here in the epitaph. In the first twilight offered by the 6 chosen by the key says sacrifices. There's no doubt! 6 people died in the beginning! Even on the shutter where the magic circle was drawn, no, where the Hebrew was written, it mentioned the offering of sacrifices!
I've been saying that from the beginning.
That's right, Maria said it right at the start. Right as we found the 6 bodies when Maria was in the parlor watching TV, she said it!
The culprit isn't human. It's just the sacrifices chosen by the key.
This has nothing to do with the location of the hidden gold. It's the instructions for the resurrection ceremony using black magic or something. After all, this epitaph requires a large number of deaths. It sure does. Even reading through it quickly, there would be 6 plus 2 plus 5, 13 people who must die. How many people are normally on this island? It changes depending on the shifts for the servants. But there's the father, my husband, Jessica, and me. 2 or 3 servants. Today and yesterday there were 5 of them, but there aren't normally that many. Which means that normally, there wouldn't be enough sacrifices to carry out this ceremony. No, wait. There's that rumor that Grandpa was collecting servants from the orphanage used to sacrifice in some creepy ceremony. So what does this mean? He increased the number of servants to increase the number of sacrifices and wait for the annual family conference when even more people would gather? Isn't that the only time of year this ceremony could be held? When Jessica screamed this, Maria broke out in that creepy laugh, looking truly pleased.
Haven't you ever heard of people making bets to test their fate?
Like throwing a sandal and saying that it lands right side up, tomorrow will be sunny, or saying that tomorrow will be a good day if a coin lands heads up. There are many little superstitions like that. Sometimes when your luck is down and you get bored, if you roll the dice and you get 3 6s, you want to believe it's a portent of some miracle. While flipping a sandal, you have at worst a 50% chance. Even if you get it right side up, it's not worth much. But if you carelessly roll 3 dice, and they all come up 6, you might think that's a small miracle.
Magic works the same way. You must pray earnestly for an extremely unlikely result. Then the feelings from all those stored up prayers gain magical power and become incarnate. The magic that grandfather was trying to perform was probably like that. The key randomly selected sacrifices in a lottery, so to reduce the chance that he himself was selected, he chose a day with the greatest number of people on the island to carry out the ceremony.
Ridiculous! Are you saying that this entire situation was caused by a mere ceremony for some bizarre magic? Natsu yelled. She couldn't quite quell the fear that the scorpion charm might be the only reason she was still safe. If I hadn't received that charm from Jessica and hung it from my doorknob, would I have been killed, mixed in along with those 6? And the strangest part is, even though I hung in the charm from inside my door, they couldn't get through that door. The culprit noticed the charm from outside the door and gave up trying to open it. A human couldn't have perceived that. A charm meant to stop something that was not human had done exactly that. Impossible, impossible, impossible! But Natsu, the epitaph certainly does continue to fit even after that. On the second twilight, those who remain shall care about the two who are close. Could this be talking about Eva and Hideyoshi? Painful as it may be, we must reach that conclusion. And after the culprit killed them, they left the words from the third twilight in the letter there. That's right! After carrying out the second twilight, they left the third twilight in that place! The third twilight was just like what Aunt Natsu just read! On the third twilight, those who remain shall praise my mortal name. Ah! If you read it this way, it just keeps going on, doesn't it? On the fourth twilight, gouge the head and kill. Gouge the head and kill. George's parents were killed with those demon ice picks gouged into their heads. But if they were the second twilight, someone else must have been gouged in the head. It's grandfather. He was burned in the incinerator, and our eyes were so drawn to that part we didn't notice. And his forehead, no, his head, had been gouged. Grandfather was the victim of the fourth twilight? Then Cannon was... On the fifth twilight, gouged the chest and killed. He thought Cannon's case was an unexpected encounter with a culprit, but that's wrong. From the very beginning, they planned to lure someone out alone and drive something through their chest. If the culprit has followed the epitaph this far, does that mean 3 people still have to die? On the sixth twilight, gouged the stomach and killed. On the seventh twilight, gouged the knee and killed. On the eighth twilight, gouged the leg and killed. Yes, you could read it that way. Well, I wonder about that. After those 3 die, it reaches the ninth twilight. Take a look. On the ninth twilight, the wish shall revive. None shall be left alive. We're all gonna be killed by Beatrice. I don't get it. Wouldn't that mean everyone dies no matter how many people there are? What's grandfather after? Doesn't this mean the ceremony would kill him too, no matter what?
It's okay if no one's left alive. On the 10th twilight, we finally arrive at the Golden Land.
The 10th twilight, at the journey's end, you shall attain the power of the Golden Land's treasures once for the last time. The wish shall praise the wise and bestow 4 treasures.
Grandfather wasn't afraid of dying. Look at the second and third of the 4th treasures.
One shall be the resurrection of all the dead souls. One shall be the resurrection of love that was lost. So Grandfather believed that he would eventually be revived, even if he died partway through this ceremony. Ridiculous! That's insane! When you die, it's over, right? The dead don't come back to life. Isn't that a miracle humanity's been chasing over after thousands of years and still hasn't accomplished? So is this what it means? Something like you'll be able to meet with them in the afterlife where they'll be restored? If what you're saying now is right, it would mean that Grandpa, whose remaining life is slim, and who's been driven mad by love, is committing a massive forced death? Genji, is such a thing possible? Sorry, I have to skip that word. I don't know if it's okay to say. Depending, because I posted on YouTube. I have no idea. I don't know. The master is a man who sometimes has the wisdom to see 1,000 years into the future. However, there are times when that appears to be nothing more than madness to companies such as myself. Okay, should we take that for a yes? What do you say, Kumasawa? I don't know anything. That's right, I don't know. You think I would be on this island today if I did know? I would have faked an illness or done anything to take the day off, that's right.
What about your opinion, Dr. Nanjo? You've been grandfather's friend for many years. I feel the same as Genji. KINZO was a man who far surpassed ordinary people. I even felt a sort of inhuman power from him sometimes. Even I don't know what KINZO was thinking when he wrote that epitaph. All we can say is that even if grandfather did write the script, someone else is carrying it out. That's right. At the very least, there's another culprit who attacked grandfather in canon. Furthermore, that person is still continuing the crimes just as the epitaph said. The letter in the beginning that we didn't even think deeply about. What was written in there? We thought back to the recitation of the letter last night. Beatrice has proclaimed something inside of it. She claimed that according to her contract with KINZO, she would collect everything of the Ushiramiya family as interest. But then she also revealed a special clause. If someone discovered the location of the gold grandfather had hidden, that right would be lost. When that letter was read, grandfather was still alive. At that time, it had already been sealed with the wax by the head's ring, which meant grandfather handed the ring over to Beatrice when he was still alive. If we take a straightforward approach, maybe we should assume Beatrice is carrying out that strange contract, with grandfather guaranteeing her that right. In other words, this is the same as saying grandfather knew of and approved of the contents of the letter. In other words, it's basically a joint message from Beatrice and grandfather telling us that Beatrice will start collecting interest if we don't solve the riddle. In other words, grandfather and Beatrice were demanding that we try and solve the riddle of the epitaph. And if we couldn't, they were saying the massacre would be carried out according to the epitaph. What does that mean? What do they want? I don't have a clue what it means.
Look! Another letter from Beatrice!
Huh? What do you say? Oh, I meant, huh? What did you say? Maria was pointing at the top of the table where the canned food everyone had been eating just now still lay. A Western envelope from Beatrice certainly was sitting there. So what? What in the... Aunt Natsuki let out a hysterical cry, looking between her own hand and the table, because the envelope she had just opened was still grasped in her hand. So why is there still an envelope on the table? What the hell? What's going on, Maria? Where the hell did that envelope come from?
Just now I looked and it was lying there. Ugh!
I don't know anything. This isn't funny. There's only 8 of us here. There's no way some 9th person stuck in. There wasn't enough time during the few seconds we gathered around the portrait, right? Get back, all of you! Back against the wall! Natsuki was pointing the rifle at Genji and the others bellowing at them. Genji was overpowered, his face looking like he didn't have a clue what was going on. Of course I felt the same, but a few moments late, I reached the same conclusion Natsuki had. Just a few seconds ago, there was no letter like this on the table, and nobody entered this room. That means someone among us placed it here during the few seconds when everyone was looking away preoccupied with the portrait. Valor, open the envelope and read what's inside! Sure! I picked it up. It was still sealed with wax. Even without disturbing its contents, I realized this was as yet an unopened envelope, an unknown envelope. Without relying on a paper knife, I tore it open and pulled out the letter inside. The contents were as follows. Are you enjoying the riddle of KINZO's epitaph? As you are all probably aware, you have very little time remaining. Please abandon any naive hopes of escaping after the storm passes. This game can only end with my victory or yours. When time runs out, I will win by default. There will be no times. Make sure that you do not misunderstand your current situation. That's what it says. It isn't clear who put this letter there. However, I have been able to narrow down the list of suspects. It's you all! Madame, that is just too horrible. Just before I moved toward the portrait, I set a can of food down here. At that time, there definitely wasn't anything as strange as this letter there. And at that time, Jessica, George, and Valor were already in front of the portrait. They didn't leave the spot in front of the portrait until the letter appeared. So the person who set that letter down is one of you 4. Beatrice is here!
We aren't Beatrice. Beatrice exists!
Silence! I don't know whether I should suspect one of you or all of you, but without a doubt, at least one among you is the culprit. That's right! There can't be a 19th person! There's no way witches exist! Even when Kano was killed! Yeah, it could be explained Kumasawa was the one who did it! The truth is that Kumasawa entered the boiler room with Cannon and killed him! And then she lied saying he had already fallen when she got there! You're making a mistake, milady! Why would I do something like that? I don't have the slightest idea how my parents were killed in that closed room. When they were killed, everyone except the servants had an alibi. The only ones who didn't were the servants. But does that really mean it's okay to suspect them? Yes, now that you mention, they have no alibi for any of the cases. Should we really be so quick to make that judgment? This time, in this room, in this place, this moment, in this minimally small bit of time and space, it's obvious. Only one of the four of them could have set the letter there in the blind spot. We can't tell who put it there, but it's obvious one of the four did it. Natsuhi, please calm yourself. A lot has happened today. I understand how much strain your mind is right now. Dr. Nanjo, it truly pains me to call you suspicious. However, you are father's personal doctor and his closest friend. You have been at his side for many years. You might even know about Beatrice. Could you be hiding some kind of old obligation? Of course not. Calm yourself. It was pitiful to watch Dr. Nanjo frantically pleading his innocence. It was probably a normal reaction that anyone would give if they were suspected. Kumasawa was the same. Ever since Jessica voiced her suspicions of Kumasawa murdering Kano, Kumasawa had been totally flustered. That was why Genji's still calm appearance was so bold, while Natsuki pointed the barrel of the gun. Genji, you were grandfather's #1 subordinate. Was Beatrice an illusion you showed to father with you as the performer? If by suspecting me you recognize me as the master's greatest circle, then I could count it as a great offer, regardless of the circumstances. However, I am not the one who put the letter there. Do you expect us to just accept that? You must be the ringleader. Maybe Kumasawa and Dr. Nanjo are your accomplices. And Maria too. Not content to just suspect the adult, Aunt Natsuki pointed the gun relentlessly at Maria too, but Maria acted as though nothing had happened. Maybe she thought she'd be fine even if she was shot. Maria! By this point, we can no longer remove someone from suspicion just because they are young. So for the last time, let me ask the question that everyone's had since last night. Yesterday, who was the Beatrice who handed you that letter? Maria, don't dodge the question! Make it clear! Who gave you that letter?
How many times do I have to tell you? It's Beatrice, the 1,000-year-old golden witch. If you want to know what she looks like, just turn around. See? She's right there. Beatrice is.
Don't mess with us, Maria! Enough, Jessica. Maria, too. Do you understand the situation? What are you hoping to gain by saying stuff like that? Stop stirring each other up pointlessly. I don't understand. Who do you want the culprit to be? You only believe in Beatrice when you don't want to suspect one of your own. When you're trying to settle a grudge because someone who's close to you has been killed, only then do you want to believe in a human that you can attack with violence. Oops, I'm sorry. That was Maria. Let's try again. I messed up. My bad.
I don't understand. Who do you all want the culprit to be? You only believe in Beatrice when you don't want to suspect one of your own. When you're trying to settle a grudge because someone who's close to you has been killed, only then do you want to believe in a human that you can attack with violence and deny Beatrice. That's why you can't see her. Beatrice exists. You all can't see her.
Silence! I don't want to label you as the culprit, but there's no longer any doubt that you enjoy making this situation unpleasant or are providing assistance to the enemy.
Then what will you do? Shoot me? I don't mind. Very soon the doors of the Golden Land will be open. Then all the dead will be resurrected. Right now, death is nothing to be afraid of.
Mom! She really is suspicious! We can't keep her with us! But Aunt Natsuki, please calm down. There's no reason to shoot Maria. Please remain composed. The letter was just meant to provoke us, but it's nothing to be afraid of. Even the culprit is scared of what will happen tomorrow. They're scared of the police. Right now, this island is free from the reach of the law, but that's only because it's isolated by this typhoon. Once the typhoon passes, the law will return, so you mustn't shoot. How can you stay so calm, George? One of these four is the culprit. No, maybe all four of them are working together. How can you stay so calm when one of these four might be the culprit who killed your parents? Even I have the desire to find the culprit and kill them, but that would be simple barbarism. I'll leave the judgment of crimes to the law. So no matter how suspicious they are, you mustn't pull that trigger. I feel the same, George. Natsuhi, get a hold of yourself for a second. Anyway, it'd be bad to shoot. In times like this, I hear you should just tilt your head back and say, "Stay cool" 3 times.
Let me make this clear. Witches don't exist. Not in Rokenjima. Not in the Ushiromiya mansion. I declare it as Ushiromiya Natsuhi, representative of the Ushiromiya family. There's no witch here. I won't accept Beatrice. No matter what you're planning, I won't let you lay one finger on my daughter or the rest of them. That's my duty as a mother and the representative to the family.
Those words were the final words of farewell that settled everything. To protect your daughter, Natsuhi would regard any suspicious person as an enemy. The only reason George and I were standing on this side was because, by coincidence, we had a clear alibi regarding the letter. If I hadn't approached the portrait, I would also be at the other end of the gun barrel, treated like a criminal. But even though a part of me thought that, part of me was thinking that chasing all the suspicious people out from this room would finally guarantee our safety. Genji and Kumasawa and Dr. Nanjo, all of them were on grandfather's side. Maybe you could say that once Maria started blindly believing Beatrice, she was also on grandfather's side. Right, they're all suspicious. Is this really okay? We throw out all the suspicious ones in such a lawless way. Do we still have the right to defy the lawlessness of the witch? Aunt Natsuhi didn't tell them to leave with her own words, but with wordless pressure, she induced them to say that themselves. Because if Dr. Nanjo didn't say those words, this cold silence would surely continue forever. Calm yourself, Natsuhi. Still, I understand your feelings well. I myself feel like there's something wrong with my head after all these strange repeated incidents, so I understand well why you would want to suspect us.
If you really have nothing to do with this, then my actions would be beyond rude now. However, please understand this once.
Very well. Let's leave the room. What do you say, Genji? Shall we return to the parlor and continue our chess game?
If that is what you wish, by all means.
I don't want to. After all, that means we'll leave this room knowing the wolf is among us, right? I don't want to, madame. Please forgive me. It was obvious that Kumasawa was trying to say, if she was innocent, that she was being ejected into dangerous territory along with the culprit. In the current situation, urging her to leave this room along with the suspect was almost exactly the same as letting her get killed. However, Kumasawa really was suspicious just for being the first one to discover that Kanem had been murdered. At that time, everyone except Kumasawa had had an alibi. Unless we could prove the existence of some contraption, or the existence of some 19th person, Kumasawa was by far the most likely suspect. I didn't want to believe it. However, Aunt Natsuhi and the rest of us were in such a difficult situation, we couldn't help but suspect her as well, so we didn't say anything to stop Aunt Natsuhi from trying to oppressively chase them out of the room. We stopped her from shooting, but we were passively agreeing to chase the others out of the room. On top of that, Maria spoke to the fretful Kumasawa.
It's okay. Beatrice is kind to those who respect her. You believe that Beatrice exists. So it will definitely be okay. I'll watch TV in the parlor. Let's watch it together. It's so boring here without TV.
It looks like Kumasawa found Maria's roguish laugh very frightening. However, the 3 other people had agreed to leave this room. Kumasawa couldn't fight the flow and had to agree, crying as she went. Well then, Natsuhi. That'll be all for tonight. Let's meet again tomorrow.
Yes. Please understand at least for tonight. When the police have come, all of us will surely apologize for our rudeness. You may play chess, but do it in a safe place if you can. Genji, I'll leave them in your hands. Certainly.
It can't be helped, can it? They always say the most frightening bears are those with their children.
Genji, Kumasawa, my sincere apologies. Let's meet again tomorrow. Maria, too. Please forgive your cold aunt.
Ah! I forgive you. Ah!
Madame, the key to this room. I will hand both over to you. Genji pulled 2 golden keys from his pocket and handed them to Aunt Natsuki. I will also hand over my bundle of keys to the inside of this mansion. They took out a bundle of 10 keys of various shapes and handed it over. To the servants, those keys were probably proof of their position. Being placed in charge of those keys meant they were trusted and relied upon. When they were forced to return them, it meant they had lost that trust. Thinking about it this way, to Genji, who had worked here for a span of many years, there could be no greater shame. However, Genji's usual indifferent expression remained on his face. Genji, I had planned that, after her father passed away, I would reward you for so many years of hard work and allow you to retire. To treat you like this makes me feel ashamed from the bottom of my heart. I have already received the master's favor. Everything I had done until today has been in repayment for that. Please do not worry over it.
Well then, shall we, everyone? Good night to you all.
Yes, yes.
Ah! Good night. Good night to you too, Valor. Ah!
Maria, wait a sec. Knowledge of guilt made me call Maria back.
Yes, they should. They should have included her. I groped around my pocket and took out the scorpion keychain. Yes, Valor. Show the 9-year-old you lied to her.
This repels magic, right? Wear it.
Didn't you say you dropped it?
Back then I got ticked off and just bluffed that I lost it. There's no way I'd lose that precious charm you gave me. Maria silently took the charm. I was unable to say anything after that.
Well then, everyone. Good night to you.
We watched them leave, our expressions completely worn out. We weren't even able to respond. Until the door closed, we heard the auto lock. We were unable to breathe. We were finally allowed to take a break. After that, I noticed Beatrice's letter, which I had been gripping the whole time, which soaked with my sweat, actually had 2 sheets. The paper that had been tightly stuck together, so I mistakenly thought there was only one. There were no characters on the second sheet. The thing drawn there was a magic circle written with an red ink like blood. Just like how every magic circle up until then had been different, this magic circle was one I never laid my eyes on before. The Triforce! Inside the circle, a large triangle and a small triangle were fit together in a simple design. Just as before, there was writing in Hebrew. It seemed clear it had some kind of meaning. I wanted to know what it could be, but we had just chased Maria, the only person who could understand the meaning of magic circles, out of the room. I thought this magic circle was Beatrice's second message. What does this magic circle mean? Damn it! After chasing out all the suspicious people, all we had to do was stay barricaded here until morning, and everything would be over. Once the typhoon has passed, when the seagulls cry, will everything be solved? But the letter, which had unexpectedly appeared in the study, forced us to reject the naivety. It made it very clear if time ran out, it would mean the witch's victory. When time runs out, is the witch planning on taking on the offensive? This time, is she planning to display some fearful magical power? Maybe something that could have been used to kill all 6 adults at once? Wait. Is time supposed to run out anyway? I don't know anything. With this, we should finally be safe. Finally. Definitely. Even as she said that, Aunt Natsuki couldn't stop gripping that rifle. There was no release in the tension of her expression. Of course, none of us felt like breathing a sigh of relief. At least not until we could hear the cry of the seagulls once more. I'm the kind of weird. I'm the kind of weird one that doesn't play the games, but I listen to all the music. I mean, I've seen some of the designs and stuff. I think I like Sakuya. Wait. Darn it, which is the one with the maid with the knives stop time or something. What the? Let's see, let's read this one, since we finally know. Servant Cano, found in the boiler room, with a weapon resembling an ice pick sticking out of his chest. How presumptuous of lowly furniture like that. I didn't know that. Good, good. Let's see. Okay, we got those. How can I try to read my opponent if I don't know their character? How much meter they have? And what's the difference in our health is? Can they afford a turtle and run out the clock? Or will they swoop in with a level 3 super? God, it's useless. It's all useless. All I know is how much time is left in the match. I never even imagined this could be a tag fighter. Oh yes. Oh yes. His tag team. I think I've played one of those Marvel vs. Capcom games on like what is it called? The Dreamcast. Let's try reading Jessica's line again. An incredibly strong move, one that could strike suddenly and open its target up for a kill combo. Most would despair trying to maintain defense against such a move, but Balor clung to one hope. For Dr. Doom to land his foot dive, he has to get close enough to be in range of a counter hit. If he could read that foot dive, he could turn the tide of battle! Oh, yep. Maria makes everybody mad. Yeah, that's true. I actually do have the fighting game too. I got Ogo Muso. Oh yes. They didn't have Gap in there? Oh sheesh. Oh yes. Rosa, the only one who got it. If you ask me though, it should be all of the moms. Oh yes. That is true. It does. I think I got Ogomuso around like around 2020, around that time. Toho Hiso Tensoku. Oh. I haven't ever really played any of the Toho games. I've only listened to Toho arranges. Cause like I'm not very good at like shooter games like Galaga, I think, or Toho. I think I'd get overwhelmed and I'd be like, I've frozen. I've seen the memes like easy mode. You're playing easy mode. The room. I do have a bunch of the music. I have like so many of the songs. I got like Buta Otome's ones. I got like Felt. I got like Akatsuki records. I have like so many. Or the Astro Maria records. I have too many. Too many arrangements that I like. I got like 1,000 at least or something. Oh. I see. Yeah, I've seen the Pretty Light Show. I have seen like the Toho Phantasma anime thing, I think. Okay, I'm gonna have to find a way to fix this sound because I don't want to try to deal with trying to fix the sound and dealing with like many hours, especially since I know that we're almost finished with episode 1. Alright, I'm gonna go. Good night. Oh yeah, I've heard that they are friends. That's true. I've heard about that. Yeah. Night!